Right, hello. This is about my fourth attempt to do this. I keep running into technical problems. My machine's a bit funny. I think I need to do a complete reinstall of everything at some point, when I'll have a chance to do that. Right, rambling over. I'm on the Blackboard site. In here, if I go into it, I've got some exercise materials. If I go to the main CP2K thing, it's under exercises, and it was actually this 2018 stat mech and molecular simulation I've gone into. Anyway, in here there was an argon input file. Half a suspicion. No, I've got everything. And there's better ways of doing this. I'm on a Windows box, but I'm just going to do it brute force for now. I'm going to go to my downloads folder. I'm going to open up Notepad. Now, Notepad is rubbish. Don't use it if you've got anything better. I have got better things, but I just want something that you've definitely got. Notepad++ you can get from the store online, much better. I'll save as all files, and I'm going to call it ar.imp, and I'm going to save it to my OneDrive file. Now I'm going to put it in downloads just so that I can easily find it. And if I look in downloads, I can see ar.imp. If you save it by the default .text, it will call it ar.imp.txt, which will cause minor annoyances. So I've saved it into the Windows downloads. Now if I fire up Ubuntu, I'm hoping people have installed it. If you're running a different system or something, this may be where you're sort of starting things. pwd, path to the current working directory. And so this is in the Linux, it's a separate bit of the file system. So you can see it on the Windows File Explorer down here, but I'd recommend not directly going in and out and messing around with it. Better to talk to Windows from here, otherwise you can break your Ubuntu installation. I think that may have been one of the problems I was talking about earlier. So I've done a completely fresh install, so there shouldn't be anything here at all. Anything that I don't find, I should be installing fresh. So ls lists what is in my directory. I'll get rid of that. Rem is short for rm is short for remove, and ls is list. Now I've got nothing here. I'm going to make the first CP2K runs, and I'm going to change directory first. Runs. Let me change the font to a slightly bigger one. Now if I list /mnt, this is called a mount point, and it allows you to see different disks on your computer, real or imaginary. And then I'm into the Windows file system. I use these forward slashes to go through the folder, users, matw, downloads, and then there's ar.imp, and it exists. So you can see that /mount c user. So this is not something you'll have to worry about if you are running Linux. So if you're on machines in the labs, but if you're running this Windows Subsystem for Linux, or maybe you're working through if you're working for a virtual machine and using the shared files, there'll be something similar. The sort of exact mount point might change. It's called /media and some other things, but /mount. Okay, so if instead of ls I copy it, and dot means the current directory, dot means the one up. So if I list again, I've got that file. So now if I do cp2k.paoptar.imp, it'll tell me CP2K is not found. So you may already have installed CP2K. I'm going to do what it tells me. Sudo apps. Anytime you get a message like that, can't find things, update your system. So this is where I've done a clean install, and the clean install is a little bit out of date. And now if I install CP2K, it's okay. This will take a second or two. As I say, this is a slightly ugly way of working at the moment, because in this type of terminal we can't get a separate window to pop up. So we can't get there are built-in text editors that come with Linux. They're very powerful. They're definitely the way forward in the longer term, but in the short term they make your life a little bit miserable whilst you learn some rather bizarre key combinations. So we won't do that. I'm going to use this horrible hack of editing stuff in Notepad on the Windows, saving it to download, and then copying it across when I want to make changes. What I'll do is I'll put up a suggestion for how to change things into a better format, or how to do this in a better, more ergonomic way later, but that's there. So now if I do the same thing, I'm going to put -I for an input, ar.imp, and if I'm lucky, that will run. Okay, I can just use the mouse wheel to scroll up, and I've got all this stuff that I showed you last time. And at the end, the only bit we're actually interested in really is that energy. So it did a single point energy calculation. It calculated the energy of these guys. And you see it's written it to the screen. If I do home, I'll do _4.0.out. Now nothing gets written to the screen. If I do ls for list again, I can now see I've got this extra file. This editor I talked about in there is called VI. V. And then I can move up and down here. The trouble with VI is it uses some weird combinations. So I do colon to get a command sort of sequence thing, and then I do Q to quit. So that's the same thing we saw in the thing, but done there. Now, if people are brave enough to use VI, I can do ar.imp. I can go here, find where I want to edit. And if you remember, what I did was to change the distance. X delete, press I to go into insert mode, 4.5, escape to escape insert mode, colon to go into command mode, and I do W to write my file, and then Q to exit, and press enter. But I could equally well go to this notepad file, change that to 4.5 there, save as ar 4.5.imp, all files, so I don't get this annoying .text bit, and save it. And now I can copy found, see users at downloads, I'm pressing the tab button to get it to expand it once I put enough in. AR 4.5.imp. I'm copying it to here. CP2K dot opt, and the input file is AR 4.5, and the output file will be AR 4.5.out. Now I've got two input and output files. I can, as a brute force way, just copy the I can also copy them back into the downloads. So this way went from this file from that location to here. If I do it the other way, let's give a folder locations. If I copy 4.5.out downloads and go there, then I can see that this has just appeared. I could open it and or import it into Excel and do that sort of stuff. So that's the first run. And so let's make a new directory, first molecular dynamics. Let's go to first molecular dynamics. If I go back to the website, there's another file further down. There's actually a copy of it here. So let's save link as, and I'll put it in my downloads file. And I'll call it Argon MD. I'll put it in the downloads. So again, if I copy, and I'm using the cursor up button, the arrow key up. So if I go back to my command list, instead of copying that, if I instead copy Argon MD, yeah. Then I've got my input file. But what I will do, I'm going to edit it first. I'm going to open with okay. I really don't like Windows. I'll open with Notepad, file, open, downloads. All files, Argon MD. I can make a couple of changes here. Because if you remember in the labs we discovered it created a lot of output. So these are the default settings. Okay. We'll stick with that. That's fine. So I'll show you in another thing how to change the amount of output and stuff. But let's just assume that works. And now we can do Argon the input. As Roy discovered, you don't want to write to the screen. And as a useful command, if I put an ampersand at the end of the line, it will run in the background. So it doesn't hang whilst I'm waiting for it to run. If I do list ls, I can see my files starting to appear. The command tail prints out the bottom of a file. And if I give it a -f thing, it means follow AR 108 1.energy. I can see my run carrying on. Let's Control C to exit from that. And you can see I've got these same files I talked about last time. Let's move me out the way. I think it may have finished. Yes, it now tells me it's done that. And so at the moment I've got VMD installed on the Windows box. So if I do the same things before, if I copy Argon 108 pause for the position files to out C users at downloads. It's copied it across, and then I can go to downloads. If you've not used, it might be easier to open VMD first and then open this up. So I've got two windows here, the third one's thinking about it. File, new molecule, browse, downloads, load. Yeah, I've fallen into a trap. That loads very slowly because it's sort of interactively loading it step by step. But it will file new molecule. So one more go. Browse, downloads, pause, and then not load in background, but load all at once and load it. It should be somewhat quicker. So this is a bit of a problem because the default settings were saving the information every frame. So we've got 30,000 frames there, which is more than we really need. Let's get rid of that. Let's just get VMD up. So the things I did was I right clicked on this, delete frames, and I'm going to keep every 20th frame. So now I've got 1,500 frames, and that's a bit happier. Display orthographic means that it doesn't provide a perspective transformation, it just sort of shows it in a sort of flattened view. For those of you with a graphics card, setting WSL as the render mode, make things a bit prettier. Representations, I'm going to go for Van der Waals spheres. I'll make them a little bit smaller. As you can see, these guys are sort of swimming around. And the last thing I did in the class was to BBC set Let's find out how big the box is. It's 17 point something angstroms. So I put the box around the atoms in all the frames. And then I'm going to move all the atoms back inside the box. Zoom in. If I press T, I can translate. C, I can center. R, I can rotate. Center on C. And the mouse wheel zooms in and out. You can also press S for scale, I think. As I've got the graphics card working, I can get pretty versions of these guys. Let's just do that for argument's sake. Hard plastic, what should we have? Chalky. There's lots of other things, it's nice things. So I go to colours, display, background. Let's have a silver background. So we can now see our atoms jiggling around. What's nice, I say these representations are very customizable. So that's one. I'm going to create a new image. I'm going to call it index 4 and 5. So it will pick out the two atoms 4 and 5. A big gotcha that can happen is it starts from 0 like Python. So this will be the 5th and 6th atom in the list of atoms. I'm going to make them a little bit bigger. And I'm going to change their colour. colouring method to colour ID, make them blue. And now you can see it's zooming from one side to the other. So later on, when we want to actually monitor how far things have moved apart, we'll want to not wrap everything back in, but keep it separate. But that's it for now. There's lots of tools, lots of things we can do. But for now, if you can run a simulation, you can visualize it. We can get some nice highlighted atoms of interest, run them. So I think that will do for now. I'll stop recording. Thank you. I hope this has worked, otherwise I'll be really miffed.